I can bring you in warm, or I can bring you in cold.
This is where the fun begins.
Hello there.
Hello and welcome to Jedi Knights, the official Star Wars podcast for JoyClicks. My name is Mike Connors, once again hosting here alongside the illustrious co-host, my Chewbacca. Although I think we came up with a different Wookiee name for you, Christian.
We did, and then we realized that he was a slaver, and I was like, okay, you know what? I'll just take
All
Chewie.
right.
I like Chewie.
Okay, all right. Yeah, no, I forgot that detail. That's important. But yes, man, how are you? This is episode 71 of Jedi Knights.
Hell yeah, I'm doing good, Mike. I found myself missing Star Wars recently. I don't know why. Because, like, I have my book. I'm still getting through it. I'm still getting through Into the Dark. Reading at a much slower pace than I did for Light of the Jedi. I think mainly because Light of the Jedi was just, like, a blitz. And this is like, oh, it's a nice book. It's a nice read. So, like, picking it up and putting it down. But other than that, yeah, I've been missing Star Wars, dude. I don't know what it is, but I feel like there's an absence of Star Wars in my life recently. How are you?
I'm good, man. I haven't been on the Star Wars grind myself either, but you're saying that you've been feeling like there's an absence of Star Wars in your life, and I think we have some news today that will start to turn that around. Because Star Wars is coming back into the mainstream, baby.
Hell yeah.
It's already been in the mainstream.
Mm-hmm.
But we'll get to that later on in the episode. But first off, I think we should start how we always do with From the Jedi Archives, a segment of Jedi Knights in which one of us, or each of us rather, chooses a Wikipedia article to educate the other on any piece of Star Wars lore, whether that's canon, EU, video games, whatever. So Christian, I think since I'm hosting this episode, why don't you start us off with what you chose?
All right. We're gonna be talking about Yub Nub, the beverage. So we're getting some Galaxy's Edge lore, Mike.
All right.
Yub Nub was an orange-colored alcoholic beverage served at Oga's Cantina in Black Spire Outpost on the planet Batu in around 34 ABY. Its name was taken from the Ewokies' word for freedom. The drink was served with seeds from fruit that was imported from Endor and in a traditional Ewok cup, which also came with a coaster depicting the furry beings. The drink was suitable for human consumption.
That's awesome. So it's an alcoholic drink.
Yes, I have the menu description if you would like it.
Yes, please.
So this is coming from, the ancient texts re-excavated by professionals. Malibu pineapple rum, Sailor Jerry spiced rum, citrus juices, and passion fruit served in a souvenir Endor mug. That sounds delicious.
It does sound pretty good. Do you think Wicket himself created this, or do you think it's like an old Ewok tradition?
I think it might have been Wicket, or maybe one of those Ewoks during the celebration, because I'm looking at this commemorative mug, Mike, and it looks like the mug is depicting the Battle of Endor. I see an Ewok on a speeder. I see a Death Star in the sky.
Mm-hmm.
So yeah, I think it's a more modern creation of the Ewok culture, which I cannot wait to indulge myself with at one point.
Wait, so do you see a photo of it at all? Like, what does it look like? Is it colorful or?
So because it's served in this mug, I cannot see well enough the drink. I see a little hint of the drink. I'm gonna send it to you just for reference, but
Okay.
it looks yummy. I like some fruity tropical rum drinks. So
The cup is really cool, actually.
I-
It definitely has that like old school like wood carving vibe.
for sure, yeah. If/when I do go to Galaxy's Edge, I will get that and I will review it on the show.
We've been joking about it, but I think it's something we need to actually do. Just take a Jedi Knights trip to Galaxy's Edge once
Yeah.
the pandemic is over.
Mm-hmm. So, what about you? What did you pull this week?
So I pulled a character. I feel like we don't often pull full characters from the Jedi Archives, but I chose Hera Syndulla.
Nice.
Yeah, so interestingly enough, the Wikipedia page for Hera Syndulla, the featured photo is not her Rebels appearance, it's her Squadrons appearance, which she kind of looks a little different,
Mhm.
but it's different art styles, I guess.
Yeah.
But Hera Syndulla was a Twi'lek female revolutionary who became a central figure in the early rebellion against the Galactic Empire and the formation of the Alliance to restore the Republic. She was born the daughter of General Cham Syndulla on Ryloth with a brother who died young, and she saw firsthand the devastation of the Clone Wars. She ends up, being with Kanan Jarrus and everything. So it's just interesting. I thought she was always a really cool character. She's kind of just always behind the scenes, but somebody who had a huge impact on the history of Star Wars. Without Hera, and I'm not sure how successful the Rebel Alliance would have been overall. I like how the Wikipedia page calls her revolutionary, because I think that's exactly what she is. And she's always been a really interesting character to me.
Yeah, I still have to finish Rebels, but from what I saw of Hera in that show, she was one of my favorite of the crew. I liked her back and forth with Kanan a lot. Very charming space parents. I like that energy.
Yep.
So yeah, and it's cool that she's popping up in other things as well, and I think there was wasn't there speculation that she was in the final battle in Rise of Skywalker? Yes. The Ghost was there, right?
Yeah, well, the Ghost confirmed was at that battle, but not sure if Hera herself was piloting the Ghost. I guess that's a story to be to be told another time.
Yeah, but very nice.
But yeah, cool. So moving on from the Jedi Archives segment that we always have, we got some big Star Wars news to talk about, Christian. And I think that we should just not hold any punches here. We should just go for the gold, go for the gusto, the number one Star Wars story within the past week. Are you ready for this?
Hell yeah.
Star Wars The Bad Batch to release on Disney Plus March 4th, or May 4th.
Oh,
sorry.
Man.
I was going to say, that's really soon. May 4th, Star Wars Day. My apologies. New episodes airing weekly on Fridays. So that's awesome news. We've been speculating for the past months, like almost a year now, like when The Bad Batch is going to release, and we finally have some hardcore set dates. So it's coming out on Star Wars Day, May 4th.
Yes, that's very exciting. You know what this tells me?
What?
This tells me that there will be no other major release for Star Wars that day, so Lego Skywalker Saga, it's not coming out that day.
I know. That's the first thing I thought about. I was like, well, they can't release The Bad Batch and a video game on the same day. I mean, they could, but that's not great marketing,
Why would you just do a bunch of stuff on Star Wars Day when you could spread it out across the month, and then just have 2 huge days for Star Wars, two better than one. So,
well, Star Wars, it could be Star Wars month. We just need to change May to Star Wars month.
Yeah. Mark Hamill does that anyway. He does the joke every day of May.
That's true.
So
true. Yeah. No, Mark Hamill, he is an innovator. But yeah, this is really cool news. I guess this makes sense. I kind of just point this out in the show notes. We already had a trailer for this, so it was kind of just a matter of when they would announce it.
Sure.
And I think they had announced it was happening back spring 2020, right? Near the Clone Wars coming out.
Yeah.
So
I guess we don't really know this either. So this is the next thing to speculate on with the show. How many episodes are you expecting? Because season 7 of Clone Wars was what, 8?
Yeah, I believe so.
Yeah. We see Mandalorian hit 8 or 9. WandaVision, I think, is getting 9. Falcon and the Winter Soldier is getting 6. I don't know how many episodes Loki's getting, but Disney Plus, I don't think for an original series has hit. From the original series that I've watched, I don't know about some of the others, but they haven't passed 10 episodes. I'd love if we got maybe 12 of the Bad Batch minimum for season 1, and then we will just continue that. But are you expecting a lot? Because I think it's also worth noting that Disney Plus so far hasn't doubled up, and we were speculating that maybe Bad Batch would be that doubling up of here's a Star Wars show and there's a Marvel show concurrent. The next Marvel show after WandaVision is Falcon and the Winter Soldier, and that starts on March 18th. March 19th. So there's 6 episodes. So I'm doing some calendar math. That's 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6. Yeah, there's gonna be basically Bad Batch is picking up almost immediately after Falcon ends, and then I know Loki starts in June. So I don't know if they'd have overlap with Bad Batch and Loki also. So I don't know how many episodes we should expect.
Yeah, I mean, I guess it's a little bit different than WandaVision or The Mandalorian or Falcon and the Winter Soldier because it's not live action. So I think like I don't know if that really makes much of a difference, but just knowing that fact kind of makes me think that potentially the runtime of the season may be just like a tad longer. I was thinking personally that the Bad Batch would be like 10 episodes max. I don't see them like going over that threshold just because of like precedent and the other shows that have been coming out on Disney Plus. I actually didn't realize WandaVision was 9 episodes. I thought that the last episode was the finale, so that's actually interesting. So thank you for breaking that news to me, Christian. But yeah, I think it's interesting because I'm not really sure what Disney's got going on after the Loki show. I don't know if they have any other TV shows that are sort of like lined up for that period, but it seems like they're trying to like keep a continuous flow going, you know?
Yeah, that's why I'm wondering, like, let me check. I think Loki's supposed to start June 9th or something like that, June 8th. So if Bad Batch starts May 4th. May 4th is a Tuesday, so I'm assuming we'll get an episode on Friday the 7th as well. Yeah. So it's 2 that week. 3, 4, 5, 6. We might be able to squeeze 7 episodes out before Loki hits for Bad Batch. Or 6 maybe. Assuming they want to continue that. One show's the focus, one show gets the Friday slot. Because, like, you'd assume, because Bad Batch is taking that Friday slot that Mandalorian made so popular, right?
Yep.
Which was continued with Clone Wars, and then Mando Season 2, and then now WandaVision, and next Winter Soldier. Like, carrying on that Friday morning vibe for Disney Plus, like, you'd assume Loki would take that from it next, right? Because I think you're right. I think they will have content every week, presumably, for the rest of this year. So,
right. Yeah. I guess my question was, you might know more than me. Like, is there any other projects after Loki?
Okay.
I just don't know. I just don't know what is coming. I know we're talking about the Book of Boba Fett and like the Mandalorian, but that's not until like December. There's like a huge gap, it seems, between Loki and that.
I know there's 3 other Marvel shows slated for this year. There's Marvel What If, which is animated. It's going to be like, what if Black Panther was actually Star-Lord? And it's just like a little animated thing of like what that would have been like. And Chadwick Boseman, before he passed, was able to do the VO. So like, it's a lot of like, it's just having fun. Like sort of what we talked about a while back on this show of like, hey, what if we got into like just crazy what if scenarios for Star Wars?
That's cool if Chadwick Boseman did the voiceover though.
Yeah, that's going to be really exciting. I don't know how many episodes that has. Again, it's animated like Bad Batch. And then there's a show about Kamala Khan, Ms. Marvel, and then Hawkeye hitting this year. But I think that's it for Disney Plus shows in addition to Boba Fett.
Yeah, I'm thinking about it a little bit more, and it seems like you're right, Christian. The Bad Batch is going to overlap with Loki. But at the same time, that doesn't really surprise me, right? Because think about it, like more people, I feel like the general public is more inclined to watch a Loki TV show than the Bad Batch.
Yeah, you're right.
Like, so from Disney's perspective, I see why it's probably not that big of a deal for them to sort of just like bury the last 2 episodes, because the people who are going to watch that have been watching since episode 1 of the Bad Batch. They're not going to like get new people to watch that.
Yeah, and to be fair, also like we saw with Clone Wars, like because Disney Plus was sort of lacking original content at that point, like Clone Wars was like huge for binging leading up and post season 7. So like you have a lot of new fans that came in once Clone Wars was on Disney Plus, right? And caught up for season 7, and you're telling them, hey, we're continuing that story. So all those record numbers they had for Clone Wars, you would assume carry over to this if they position it the right way of like, hey, this is basically season 8 of Clone Wars. It's following up that story from these characters that you're sort of familiar with, but it's the same style, same era, just continuing what happens next. So
for sure. One thing I did want to bring up, like um, yeah, it just doesn't seem. I guess I kind of actually lost what I was gonna say, Christian.
Okay.
So never mind.
If you think of it,
Um,
shout it out.
oh, I remember. I remember. So the Bad Batch. I'm kind of curious what you think about this because the Clone Wars. That whole series was sort of told in like 3 episode arcs and
Mm-hmm.
everything.
Mm-hmm.
I'm wondering, do you think the Bad Batch is going to be of a similar sort of vibe? Like we're going to get 2 or 3 episodes that tell one cohesive story, like within a season, or is it going to be more linear, like The Mandalorian over a season it tells one story kind of thing?
Well, to my knowledge, Rebels sort of did the latter of those two, right? They sort of had their one
Yeah,
story that they were building towards. I would like. I like how Clone Wars does their storytelling. We saw season 7 do this also, of like, hey, there's 3 main stories that they tell. Um,
yeah,
I yeah, I would like that, but considering that there's a chance that maybe this is only 6 episodes, we don't know the runtime either. Maybe it's a full 8. I don't know. There's a lot of what ifs that I think once we know those, it'll paint a picture of what we're actually getting.
hmm
If I had to choose, though, I would probably say like, hey, 2 or 3 story arcs, the way we got with Clone Wars season 7, that are sort of, like maybe the first arc is the immediate fallout. The second arc is like how the Bad Batch go on their own, and then the third arc tease up season 2 or something. I don't know, but
yeah. Well, it just seems such like a spiritual successor to the Clone Wars in terms of like the art style and
mhm.
just like I don't know, just in proximity to when the last season of the Clone Wars came out. I guess I'm expecting it to be like in arc fashion,
Mhm.
but I'm not sure. I'm not sure if they're going to continue doing that because the latter seasons of the Clone Wars started to become a bit more like linear throughout the season,
Yeah.
building towards a certain thing. Um,
Because to my knowledge, also Filoni's not directly involved with this the way he was. Like he's involved even less than he was with the final few seasons of Clone Wars, right?
hmm.
So, because I know,
I mean, yeah,
I know for some of the later Clone Wars seasons, he was like not like hands on everything, right? Like he was still like overseeing stuff the way kind of Favreau does for Mandalorian, but this I think he's even less involved with. So
that's interesting. Yeah, he seems busy though.
yeah, yeah.
He's doing some other
Like
stuff.
obviously his name's still going to be on it. Obviously he's probably consulted for like the main story arc, but the reason I bring that up is because after Clone Wars he did Rebels, right, which sort of shifted away from that type of story that we tell across like arcs and more of that linear thing. And we see a lot of Mando be linear. So if he isn't involved to that extent, then I could see them still reiterate that arc based structure that season 7 was and earlier seasons of Clone Wars. But yeah, I will wait and see, I guess.
I mean, yeah, you could do both, right? You could have like smaller stories within a larger one. Like, it's definitely possible.
Mm-hmm.
I guess we're just gonna have to wait to see, or maybe we'll get some more information as we get closer to May 4th. But
Yeah.
that's pretty soon now that
Mm-hmm.
it's March.
Yeah.
So
Probably more trailers too, at least one.
yeah, at least one,
So
maybe like a TV advertisement or something.
yeah.
Cool. So I kind of put this next story. It's not quite a story. I just like talking about toys on this podcast. And Hasbro is releasing a First Order Stormtrooper electronic helmet. So similar to the Boba Fett one that they just released, and also I think they made like a Captain Phasma one. It's like a real helmet that
Mm-hmm.
you could like put over your face. It looks pretty accurate, and I guess it's like electronic, or filled with electronics and all that kind of stuff. So interesting. I think it just looks really cool and it's really expensive.
Yeah, I still want to have a cool Star Wars helmet, but I haven't found the right one for me yet. I don't think.
Yeah, what do you think it would take? It's not a stormtrooper. It's not Boba Fett. It's not Captain Phasma.
Um, it would definitely be a Mandalorian helmet. Maybe Din. I don't know.
Yeah,
We'll wait and see. We'll see if he gets any more upgrades in season 2, 3. We'll see.
right. Yeah, super best car or something like that.
Yeah.
They're also releasing Hasbro, that is, an IG-11 and Lando Calrissian vintage series figures. They look pretty cool. Lando Calrissian is just wearing his like Bestman clothes,
Cool.
and IG-11 is just like I think he's in his assassin mode. He's got like 2 guns. Looks pretty cool. I'm not really into the vintage series figures, but
yeah, they're charming. Like they remind me of the ones that I had growing up. But yeah, if I still haven't bit the bullet, but Black Series, way to go, you know.
exactly. So moving on from the toy news, just I wanted to get that out of the way. We got 2 interesting stories that I found on otherwise light news week. So the first one that I saw was Daisy Ridley. She was doing an interview with MovieWeb promoting her latest movie, Chaos Walking, which I think also involves Tom Holland. So she commented on returning to Star Wars someday, possibly. She said, "quote I mean, never say never. I'm always open to a revisit. But also the beautiful thing is it's this wonderful, huge universe with all of these stories that have yet to be told. I think there's a lot of cool things to be made before any potential revisit. In terms of revisiting the character, I think that's a bye-bye for now." That's what she said. So she's not necessarily counting it out. She's saying like, y'all gonna have to wait like a few years, maybe 10, 20 years until I come back to this role. But, she's not necessarily counting it out, which is interesting because I think in the past we've covered how she's sort of like tried to distance herself a little bit from being Rey and all the drama that meant for her and everything.
Yeah, I mean, for obviously we weren't alive at the time, but like from everything we know about post Return of the like that was the same for the OT cast. Like Mark Hamill, Harrison Ford, we know for sure. Carrie Fisher all tried to like distance themselves, and I feel like a lot of actors who sort of grew into roles for franchises do that, but then eventually they're like, yeah, I'd be open, like I think Harry Potter, like that cast immediately, like I remember Daniel Radcliffe was making some choices with the stuff that he was doing after Harry Potter, and he just does indie movies now, right? But like,
yeah. Or there was like that stage play he did. It was like Equus or something.
Yeah.
And he's like naked and stuff.
Yeah.
I remember like the Today Show in like 2010 was just like going nuts about that.
Yeah. So like, I feel like it's a thing that all like actors who are tied to franchises do, right? Like this, what we talked about, this idea of maybe the sequel cast coming back at some point, and it's like, yeah, they're being very vocal about distancing themselves with it now. Like obviously John Boyega had some very like choice words to say about his experience, and like he had a meeting with them, right? He had a meeting with Disney. He was like, hey, this is what you messed up on. This is the thing that was terrible about my involvement with this. This is how you can change this. And then like who's to say that 7 years from now, 10 or whatever, like we see if things change and John Boyega's like, okay, if you're asking me back and I see the work you put in, like, sure. Daisy Ridley, sure. Oscar Isaac, I think we talked about this too, like everyone's like, oh yeah, Oscar Isaac is like, he's too good for franchise movies. This man only does franchises now. Like
I know. It's been a long time since Inside Llewyn Davis, which is like one of my favorite movies. He's not doing the indie ones anymore,
Yeah, like he still does an odd one here or there. Like he did Annihilation. Natalie Portman was in that also, and like that was the same director that did Ex Machina. Again, like very indie stuff, but still based on existing works. And like now he's working at Marvel Studios, so he's still with Disney to an extent, and he's gonna be Solid Snake for probably how many Metal Gear movies get made. Like, he's a great actor, but I do think like all of them, I think if the time is right and the story is strong enough, they'd probably come back, man. That's what happens. It rhymes. It's the post-release story for the original trilogy too.
I think you hit the nail right on the head too, Christian. And another thing I was thinking about is like not to be that guy, not to be cynical, but never underestimate the power of the Disney bag, dude. Like, Daisy Ridley, like if Disney came to Daisy Ridley and was like, here's like a ton of money to be Rey again, what do you think she's gonna say? No.
Like she's an actor. That's her profession, like
I mean, like not to say that like they're only acting for the money and everything, but like when you get to that level, like you're not going to say no to that type of cash. Like,
and I think it also, you have to look at, like I mentioned it briefly with John Boyega, but like the experience that this cast had, outside of just the narrative of the films, like terrible. You know, like
Oh, for sure.
everybody got screwed over in some fashion, with like the backlash, the fan base, on a professional level. Like everybody had some sort of toxicity involved with their production of this, some worse than others, but like like you're saying, I think with enough time removed, one, the fandom is probably going to become nostalgic for all of them in like 4 more years, and then
Exactly.
if the time is right, if the contract's right, it's like, yeah, why not come back, do another one? Because like people, like, say what you will about the people that don't like the sequels, or like, sorry, for the people who don't like the sequels, say what you will about them. I know y'all cried when you saw Harrison Ford as Han Solo again, so shut the hell up if acting like, oh, I don't care about them. Like, you know?
Yeah, it's so funny, man. Like it's one of those things that, like, you know, time heals a lot of wounds, and I'm not trying to diminish like what a lot of the actors in the Star Wars sequel trilogy went through.
Right.
A lot of it was unacceptable.
Mhm.
Like John Boyega, I think, has a lot of interesting points to be made, and
Yeah.
and he makes them. And so does, like, you know, Kelly Marie Tran. Like the way that the both of them were treated were unacceptable. But who's to say that like 30 years from now, Disney comes to all of them with like with the same sort of proposition that they came to Harrison Ford, Mark Hamill, and Carrie Fisher with.
Yeah, man. Like,
And you know, if they got Harrison Ford to do it, man, like
yeah.
I feel like they can get anyone to do it. So I mean, yeah, I think it's she's just sort of stating the obvious. I think it's good that she's saying that it's not going to be for a while.
Yeah.
That people shouldn't get their hopes up, because it is not going to be for a while. I think she's got better things going on, like Chaos Walking. She needs to find herself, I guess. But you know, when I guess I can't put myself into Daisy Ridley's shoes, but once you portray a character that's so widespread and so well known, you got to feel like that's part of you at some point, and you can't see that, you can't really throw that away. You're with Ray, you are Ray at a certain point. So
Yeah, and I know it's not always a one-to-one. Like, honestly, if I was in John Boyega's position, like, I can't imagine what he went through, but I would be like, hey, it needs to be a pretty sweet deal if I'm coming back. like
for real, yeah.
Like, I want a lightsaber for my character. I want a real good $ on this contract. I want like a bunch of clauses in this thing. Like,
yeah.
Because it's funny actually you say that, because I watched a documentary the other day. Just speaking of like people bringing to life iconic characters and like feeling like they're a part of them. I watched a documentary about the making of the original Metal Gear Solid from like a voice acting perspective, like how it was recorded. And David Hayter, the guy who played Snake in Metal Gear Solid 1, 2, 3, 4, Peace Walker, he talked about like what the process was like for him, and he was like, and he kind of got unceremoniously fired from Metal Gear Solid 5 and then replaced with Kiefer Sutherland. And like, this man is so iconic. His voice is like the reason people like Snake, basically. And he's so celebrated, cons all the time. These fans always asking him to do the voice and stuff. And he played an instrumental role, I think, in getting that series to be popular for a while in the US.
Yeah.
And then he was cut off, and he's like, yeah, I don't follow it anymore. Like, I kind of like hate the way that I was treated, so I'm not going to come back. I haven't looked at the new game. I'm proud of what I did, but like, I'm not coming back. I'd like to come back if this guy's not involved, but I'll, like, you know. So there are cases where there's characters who, you know, have such a strong grasp in a series, and then the people behind that character making them that way might not want to come back. So I think you're right, leaving it open like this. It's what makes sense. We'll see in time, but you know, it's Star Wars, it rhymes.
True. Yeah. John Boyega, like Kelly Marie Tran, it's definitely their decision whether or not they want to come back. And like you said, we can't put ourselves into their shoes. We don't know what they went through. So if they eventually in time decide that it's not right for them to come back, then that's a decision that we as fans just have to respect. And I just think it's interesting. Movie Web, they said that Daisy Ridley, I don't know where they're getting this from, but it kind of just ties into what you were saying. They said that Daisy Ridley had her change of heart in like wanting to reprise or being open to reprising Rey again after watching the Harry Potter movies and then seeing Rupert Grint say that he's open to playing Ron Weasley again. So I think that's kind of an interesting end cap. I'm not sure exactly where movieweb.com is getting this from, but if that's true, I find that's kind of interesting, and I think it kind of plays into what we were talking about, Christian.
Definitely.
All right, cool. So why don't we move on to the next piece of news here? We got the other part of Chaos Walking, doing some media for that film. It seems Tom Holland revealed to Backstage that he actually auditioned to play Finn for The Force Awakens. So he was speaking with Backstage, and he said, quote, "I remember my audition for Star Wars. I was like 4 or 5 auditions in, and I think I was auditioning for John Boyega's role. I remember doing the scene with this lady, bless her, and she was just a drone. So I was doing all of this like, we got to get back to the ship. And she was going bleep, boop, boop, bleep, boop. And I couldn't just stop laughing. I found it so funny. And I felt really bad because she was trying really hard to be a convincing android or drone or whatever they're called. Yeah, I obviously didn't get the part. That wasn't my best moment."
That's funny.
So I find it's interesting that he was one of the people who auditioned for Finn, and I guess this must have been before he landed Spider-Man, because if Force Awakens came out in 2015, they started production in 2014, so this must have been around like 2012 or 13, right?
You'd imagine, yeah, because I think he was cast as Spider-Man in 2015, and because Civil War came out in 2016. So my whole thing is he must have been super young, like, because he was I want to say he was like 20 when he was cast as, or like 19. He was like kind of young when he was cast as Spider-Man. Because I think he's like our age.
He was born in 96.
96. Okay, yeah. So he's basically our age. So yeah, I think if the casting for Star Wars Force Awakens was announced in 2014, maybe, whenever that big post went up. You're right. This was probably 2013.
We were still in high school, so he must have just been like, just right out of high school or something.
Yeah. So wild.
Yeah, I mean, I think it makes a lot. I couldn't imagine anybody else playing Finn other than John Boyega. It's just kind of funny thinking about like the actors and actresses that have auditioned for roles that have gone to like other people. Just thinking about, it's just funny. It's just funny that he could have been Finn, but I don't think it would have worked as well.
I don't know if because I love Tom Holland. I really enjoy him as Spider-Man, and I like the other stuff I've seen him in also. But you bring Tom Holland into this role of a turncoat stormtrooper, and I think it automatically has a different way it feels. I think John Boyega brings a lot to Finn and Star Wars that I really like, and I obviously wanted more of. But it's weird. It's definitely weird, like you're saying, picturing that.
Yeah. I couldn't imagine like a 17-year-old Finn. All right. Well, I think that's about all the news that I had pulled, Christian. Is there anything that you wanna add before we get to our main event here for the day?
No, let's just dive right into it. I'm excited.
All right. Cool. Christian and I had a really great idea since this is the first episode of March 2021. We created a bracket with all of with 14, I believe, Star Wars video games of choice that we've played. We have ranked them per their Metacritic score. So we seeded them per their Metacritic score, and we put them into a bracket. And we're going to just go through the bracket and see. We're going to go through each of the matchups, and we're going to see which one comes out on top as our favorite Star Wars video game. So it's kind of like March Madness style almost.
Yeah, I'm excited for this. We have, like you said, a list of 14 games that we compiled across games that we either both played, beat, or played enough to speak to. So I'm excited to find out the champion. I know we did our ranking a while back of like our favorite ones, but this is merciless at this point. It is March Madness. Make your bets.
Seriously. So I guess we should just say that, like I said earlier, we seeded these we looked at the Metacritic ranks and seeded them based on that. So the higher the Metacritic rank, the higher the seed. So we have 14 games: Star Wars: Knights of the Old Republic, and Star Wars Knights of the Old Republic #1, and Star Wars: The Old Republic MMO were the two top highest rated games of our list. So they are the #1 and 2 seeds, and they have a bye the first round. So we're just going to be skipping those for now and go on to the first matchups. So Christian, do you want to put your money on what you think is going to be #1?
#1, I think is gonna go to Jedi Fallen Order.
Okay, all right.
What do you think?
I think #1 is going to go to Lego Star Wars: The Complete Saga.
All right. We'll see how this turns out then.
We'll see how it goes. All right. So the first matchup that we have, the 8 and 9 seeds, Star Wars Battlefront from 2015 versus Star Wars: The Force Unleashed. I believe that's #1.
Yes. Mike, I think this is the easiest one we will do.
You think it's the easiest one?
Maybe. There's a shot.
All right.
Because, listen, Battlefront 2015 at the time was super cool. So much hype for that game. Got it day one. Played the hell out of it. Beautiful game. Sounds amazing. Real solid foundation of a game. Kind of bare bones. Force Unleashed, on the other hand, again, hyped up. Filling in the gaps. The story between episode 3 and 4. Secret Apprentice from Vader. The birth of the rebellion. Come on.
Yeah, I think just on nostalgia factor alone, between the two of us, though Star Wars Battlefront, visually, is a beautiful game. Star Wars: The Force Unleashed is just insanity.
Yeah.
And yeah, I think between the two of these, maybe unfortunately, if you're a huge Battlefront fan, 2015 Battlefront fan, I think The Force Unleashed takes the cake on this matchup.
I agree. It also gave us Sam Witwer, who eventually, I'm assuming, used his experience in this role to grab Maul for Clone Wars. That was his in. So, if anything, it also gave us a good Darth Maul. So, I think we have to award it at least outranking Battlefront original, even though Force Unleashed may not have aged incredibly well or hold up fully, but it sure is fun to throw TIE fighters around like they're paper airplanes.
Yeah, or pull a Star Destroyer out of the sky. Though I'm not sure. I think that was what was that? Was that 4? Was that 2 or was that 1? Pulling the Star Destroyer out of the sky.
I remember it was in the trailer for 1. I don't remember if we did it in 1.
Ah, okay, all right. So yeah, I think between the two of those, I would say, definitely The Force Unleashed takes the cake on that one.
For sure.
So moving on to the second matchup that we have here. So I would like to say actually that The Force Unleashed moves on to face Knights of the Old Republic in the next round. But moving on to the second matchup that we have, the #4, #13 seeds, we have Star Wars Jedi Starfighter versus Star Wars Episode 3, Revenge of the Sith. Now, yes, that is the movie video game adaptation. We've talked about it a lot on this podcast here. So, Chris, yeah,
Mike, I think I might have spoken too soon on what the easiest matchup is.
You think this is the easiest matchup?
I think it might be, because I'm saying this is going to be an upset, because I think we have definitely some bias here. But for some ungodly reason, Jedi Starfighter was ranked incredibly high on Metacritic.
Yeah.
And
for some reason.
Yeah, Revenge of the Sith rated far too low. So I think the seeding here, thanks to Metacritic, we did not have influence over that Metacritic score. That's very safe to say. So I think the Revenge of the Sith game, man, it's just iconic. It's fun. You know, like it's a really solid foundation of a game. It's kind of like a beat 'em up, but you get all these different types of locations. You want to talk value? You got like a fighting game mode in here too, like an arena combat game. Like, also, we got that alternate ending where Anakin has the high ground, doesn't get the suit, kills the Emperor. Like, I think Revenge of the Sith is an easy win.
Yeah. I think Star Wars Episode 3: Revenge of the Sith, the video game adaptation of that film, is very much part of the Jedi Knights overall podcast canon. I think we've talked about that ad nauseum. Jedi Starfighter was a game that I did have as a kid as well. It was cool for the time. It was just a cool, like, you know, Squadrons-esque kind of thing, but just like a lot worse than Squadrons. I mean, but when you kind of stack them up next to Star Wars Episode 3: Revenge of the Sith, like you said, the fighting thing in that game was really cool. You could like play as Anakin, and like couldn't you like fight dark side Anakin versus like light side Anakin
you
and stuff
could.
like that? Yeah. So like, I mean, with that kind of sandbox quality, you have to give it to Episode 3.
Yeah, and I think it also filled in some gaps of the movie. Like, I'm pretty sure there was a mission where we had to go raid the Jedi Temple as Anakin. So again, it shows you maybe hints of what would have been in that 4-hour cut of Revenge of the Sith. You know, like, who's to say?
So I think you know, I think definitely we have our first. Well, not our first upset technically, because I guess The Force Unleashed was ranked lower than Battlefront, but we have more of an upset here, Christian. I think it's safe to say that Star Wars Episode 3: Revenge of the Sith wins this one.
Yeah, and that's not to say Jedi Starfighter is not good. It's good at what it does. I never loved the pilot games personally, and I had this on the PS2 when I was younger, and I also played a little bit of Rogue Squadron on the GameCube, and I much preferred that game. So
okay, all right, well, cool. I think that's a fair matchup, and I think that's a fair result too.
Hell yeah!
All right, moving on to the next matchup here, we have the number 5 seed, Lego Star Wars: The Complete Saga, going up against the number 12 seed, Star Wars Bounty Hunter. So I chose Lego Star Wars: The Complete Saga just because it kind of just gives the original trilogy and the prequel trilogy games into one. Just makes it easier that way, I guess. In Star Wars Bounty Hunter, I think, Christian, was one that you had suggested. I haven't played that one, full disclosure. So, Christian, I feel like you played both of these. So maybe you can have the final say on which one is the better.
So asterisk, I never played the Complete Saga, but I did play the breakout of the originals for the original Lego Star Wars and Lego Star Wars 2. I know Complete Saga added a couple more characters and like a mission or two, but I feel like I can sign off on that, you know.
Oh, for sure. That's why I put it in here that way, because, you know, I think the breakout ones together, like separately, sort of just like equal this.
Sure. I'll say this: Bounty Hunter, in concept, and my nostalgia for that game, remembering what it was and my experience with it, like, so good. I did replay it last year. Well, I didn't replay it fully, but I bought it in a sale on PS4. I played it for Star Wars Day. That game is not good.
Okay.
I'm fine giving it to Lego Star Wars. Like you said, it's a combination of the two that I love dearly. And again, Bounty Hunter, you have great ideas. You made Jango Fett cool for me. Do a new one. Maybe we can talk. But yeah, Complete Saga, I think, is easy here. Easy win.
Yeah, Bounty Hunter was it like a first person shooter? I'm kind of
No, so Bounty Hunter was a third person game where you played as Jango Fett, and you like, it's weird. It started in like a combat arena, like he was doing like fights against monsters, and then he broke out to do like an assassination and you had to like slowly get your gear back. So you got the jetpack, you got like the wire thing, you got the flamethrower in time. And it was basically level based. You spawned into a level, city streets, different planets, and you had to hunt down your target or your number of targets, and sometimes catch them alive, sometimes dead, specific modifiers for things. Like, it's a really fun idea. It reminds me of Hitman kind of, but like way worse. But you know, it's a concept I think I would love to see again, but as it stands, it's not. It doesn't hold a candle to complete Saga.
Well, fair enough. Yeah, I personally, like I said, I haven't played Bounty Hunter, but Lego Star Wars: The Complete Saga is just S tier to me. But moving on to our next matchup, actually, I think we should just go here. We have the number 7 seed, which is Star Wars Battlefront from 2004, so the OG Battlefront, versus Star Wars, the number 10 seed, Star Wars Episode 1 Racer. So these are like two old school games. It actually is funny that I think this is a pretty fair matchup. I'm not really sure which one I would choose because Episode 1 Racer, I think I had for like the Game Boy, so I'm not sure if that's like the best port or whatever, the best way to play it. I'm not sure if it was on like the PlayStation or anything like that.
It was.
So yeah, so I didn't personally play the high quality version of the Episode 1 Racer game, but Battlefront from 2004 is just, come on, that's like a classic. To me, yeah, no, what were you gonna say?
I was gonna say I never owned either of these, but I played a little bit of Battlefront 1 at a cousin's house, and then Episode 1 Racer for the N64 played a bit of at a Boys and Girls Club when I was much younger. But yeah, I could go either way on this, I think, if you have a convincing argument.
You know, I would say and this might seem like the obvious pick, but just because Battlefront 1 was just so iconic, you know, it really just like changed Star Wars video games, creating this new franchise of the Battlefront games. Just a year later, after Battlefront 1 was released, Battlefront 2 was, and that was a huge success. And then we saw how EA and DICE made the Battlefront games in 2015, 2017. So without the 2004 version of Battlefront, I'm not sure if we would have ever gotten those games. And Star Wars Episode 1 Racer, as, you know, nostalgic as that is, it doesn't hold a candle, like you said earlier, to the impact, I think, that Star Wars Battlefront 1 had. So if it were up to me, I think Star Wars Battlefront 1 wins over Episode 1 Racer.
Yeah, I feel confident giving the choice to you. I would just like to add on that I think your point you're making is sound, but at the same time, I think almost in every sequel to the original Battlefront, it was outdone. Where
this is true.
Episode 1 Racer, I don't know if they've ever done that again in a way. Like, obviously pod racing was in the Lego games and that was super fun. But the idea of making a game about pod racing and making it fun, I think is really cool. And I know it got re-released, I think a year or two ago. I never picked that up. Maybe I will at some point, but I think there's something to say about how unique Episode 1 Racer is and how it's never sort of been perfected. Maybe that's because they nailed it the first time. I can't confidently say, but you have the greater experience with both of these, so like I said, I will give it to you. You can make the choice.
I guess from my perspective, it's just I see what you're saying. Like, Star Wars Episode 1 is a very unique idea and it hasn't been done since. But like, you know, and you are right that all of the sequels to Battlefront, the original Battlefront, have outdone the 2004 version of the game.
Right.
But, you know, I guess I look at it from the sense as like, you know, Star Wars Battlefront 2004 walked so all the rest of them could run.
Sure.
You know, that's kind of how I'm looking at it. Though I do see what you mean. Like, Episode 1 Racer was a very unique idea. And hopefully they can sort of make that a reality. Maybe if it's even just like a mini game in like a future game. I know that like the new Lego Star Wars game, people are speculating that pod racing might be a part of it.
That'd be cool.
That would be cool.
Dude, imagine Fallen Order 2, we go to Tatooine and then Cal has to do a pod race.
That would be cool, man.
Yeah, that'd be so much fun.
Yeah, so there are definitely. I always thought pod racing was a really interesting aspect of the Star Wars universe, and now that they're getting into, it could be like the Star Wars version of a racing game.
Sure.
That would actually be pretty sick.
Yeah, it'd be a lot of fun.
All right, cool. So why don't we move on to the next matchup here? But before I do that, I should say that because Star Wars Battlefront, the original Star Wars Battlefront, won that round, it's going up against the number 2 seed, the Old Republic MMO, in the next round. So moving to the next matchup, we got the number 3 seed, Star Wars Jedi Fallen Order, versus the number 14 seed, Star Wars The Force Unleashed 2. So, yeah, this is like one of the more stark differences, I think, that we've seen in this tournament. To me, I think the answer is pretty obvious. Christian, what do you think about this matchup?
You heard my bet out the gate. I'm pulling for Fallen Order in the long run.
Yeah.
Force Unleashed 2, I played a demo of, and I was like, I've seen enough.
Yeah. I've played Force Unleashed 2, I think. And I remember it being kind of underwhelmed at the time. It was just like the Force Unleashed 1, but just like a bit different.
I remember it looking very pretty, like a lot of rain effects, weather effects. That was cool. But again, talk about walking so a future entry can run. Like a Fallen Order, I think, is the perfect version of that type of game, where it's a Star Wars action game. It's an action RPG that is adapting the popular, like, number 1 in that series at the time. Like, Force Unleashed is going for God of War, because that was what was huge at the time. Like God of War, Devil May Cry, kind of. And then now, modern day, Fallen Order is going for Souls, which is the default action game now. And I just think, for me, that type of gameplay is much more appealing to me than hack and slash, which Force Unleashed was going for on a base level. And yeah, 2 is worse than 1, so Fallen Order, easy.
Yeah, that's an easy win for Fallen Order right there. So Fallen Order takes it over Force Unleashed 2. Moving on to the last matchup for round number 1. This is actually, I think, the hardest one. We have Star Wars Battlefront 2 from 2005 versus Star Wars Battlefront 2 from 2017. This is hard.
Mike, this is the hard. I don't know what to do.
I don't know what to do either.
Listen. Galactic Conquest is amazing, right? It's a mode that they should bring back. Obviously, it's on my shelf behind me. I have the PS2 case for the original Battlefront 2 on top of Episode 3, Revenge of the Sith, for the PS2.
God bless.
On the shelf.
The Shrine.
Yes. I love that game. I also have a... do you remember, like, Burger King had the Revenge of the Sith toys?
like 1,000 years ago? Yeah.
Yeah, I have, like, a Palpatine, like, big head that's, like, a top. I'll show it to you sometime, but it's on the shelf.
That's awesome.
Like, obviously I love Battlefront 2 Classic, but, like, I did pop into it a bit at the end of last year with some mods, get, like, some Clone Wars character models, do some Clone Wars maps. It's a fun game. It's a nostalgic game. I will buy it instantly if they put it out on modern consoles again, like on the Switch. That's a perfect system for it.
Oh, yeah.
But if you, Mike Connors, was like, hey, let's play Battlefront 2, immediately I'd want to play the 2017 one.
Yeah, I mean, it's one of those things that, like, because it came out 12 years after the classic Battlefront 2, it's like just gonna be a better game, like, just by virtue of the time difference. Like, there's just more, there are more characters, like, it's one of the most beautiful games I've ever seen in my life.
Like, obviously there's things the classic Battlefront 2 I think did better that I would like to see in a future EA DICE Battlefront game. Like, Galactic Conquest is a 10 out of 10 mode. That is so fun. Having your own campaign, conquering the galaxy for whatever faction you want. That's super fun. I like the the fun that classic Battlefront 2 can have of like the secrets. Also, like if you're on Hoth, you can find like the Wampa Cave, like all that stuff is really fun, and I think there's a charm to Battlefront 2 that makes it hold up. But like, and again, there are things I think it does better than modern Battlefront 2, but modern Battlefront 2 I think in 2021 is a great experience. It's a really fun time. Heroes Villains is really fun. Again, you want to talk value, tons of heroes. You can access pretty much all of them pretty early on at this point.
You can access all of them, I think, from the base game, and like there are a lot of modes that you could play. So
Yeah,
value, I think, is huge for this.
Ewok Hunt. You want squadrons, you can basically just get that experience from here without the campaign. Like, and the campaign. Like, I haven't played the Battlefront 2 Iden Versio campaign yet, but I know you have.
Yep.
You're a fan of it, right?
Yeah, I'm definitely a fan of it. I know that Battlefront 2, the OG Battlefront, also had a campaign of its own, where you sort of like followed the 501st, I believe, right?
Yeah.
But it's not the same. Like, it's not as involved. And like, the way that I look at Battlefront 2 Classic in 2021, it just seems like a bit more arcadey to me. It's kind of like been elevated to that level. Now, like, there is a huge nostalgia factor for the both of us when it comes to this game. So if we try to remove that lens, right? If we try to take off the rose-colored tinted glasses and we just look at these two games objectively side by side, which one do you think is better? I think there's an obvious choice, though it's not like what me as a 10-year-old kid would choose, but it's what me as a 23-year-old man would choose. So I think the new Battlefront 2 is better personally.
Yeah, I led with like cushioning the blow of like talking the good things about classic Battlefront, because I can tell you guaranteed, like, going into this I wanted to vote for 2017 because it's really fun, dude. Like, I think you can still pick up classic Battlefront 2 and have a 10 out of 10 experience. I think you can have the time of your life playing that game still. But the things that Battlefront 2 2017 do better, I think, just make it a more competent multiplayer game. And that's what Battlefront is, And you still have those moments of, like, it feels like you're playing with action figures, which is what also Battlefront is for, I think. But, yeah. I'm going with 2017. Might be a controversial pick, but
listen, I'm with you, Christian. So we can go down with the ship together.
Very nice.
I really like that game. So I think it wins over the OG one. Both are great, though.
Definitely.
So let's move on to round 2 here. We have 4 matchups in round 2. The first being the number 1 seed versus the number 9 seed. We have Star Wars Knights of the Old Republic versus Star Wars The Force Unleashed. So we have the MMO from BioWare versus the hack and slash action game from I forget what company made that.
Wait,
one.
This is the single player KOTOR, right?
This is the single player one, yeah.
Okay, you said MMO. I got tripped up for a sec.
Oh, I'm sorry. I meant Knights of the Old Republic single player versus Force Unleashed number 1.
Okay. Buy Star Killer.
Yeah, it's just an easy take right here, I think.
Yeah, it's the number 1 seed for a reason. I haven't finished KOTOR yet. I definitely have my issues with that game, I think.
Yeah.
But again, you want to just talk about like a Star Wars experience. Like, obviously the combat of Force Unleashed is fun. There's a power fantasy there, but like KOTOR is like engaging on a level that I was surprised with, and I'm still having fun with engaging with its systems. So like, plus the story's cool. So like, yeah, KOTOR.
Yeah, the story is timeless, I think. And the storytelling in Knights of the Old Republic, even in 2020, 2021, it still holds up completely, to me at least. It's a really engaging story. I like the turn-based combat of Knights of the Old Republic. Force Unleashed is nostalgic in a way, but again, so is Knights of the Old Republic. So yeah, like you said, it's the number 1 seed for a reason. So I think it definitely wins over the Force Unleashed.
Yeah.
All right, so moving on to the next matchup, we have the number 13 seed, Star Wars Episode 3, Revenge of the Sith, going up against the number 5 seed, Lego Star Wars: The Complete Saga. So this seems like a hard one too, Christian.
Yeah, I don't know.
I, I don't know. I like in a way I feel like Star Wars Episode 3, Revenge of the Sith, like it's kind of a meme, but like it's also fun though.
The thing is with Revenge of the Sith, it's got a jank to it.
Yeah.
That I appreciate, and like it's a cool it's a cool thing. It's cool that a movie game is that good, right? Like, because normally they're not. I watched one of my friends play it last year on his Twitch account for like the first time. And he's a Star Wars fan. Like, he's like a casual Star Wars fan, and he had an alright time with it. He said it was hard, which was surprising, and I completely forgot that there was like RPG progression in that, of like you put skill points towards skills in the Force.
I forgot that too.
So it's a game I definitely want to revisit at one point, but like Lego Star Wars is like kind of timeless, Like, obviously we're gonna get the Skywalker saga, and maybe that's gonna replace it. I don't know, but my heart says Revenge of the Sith, but everything else is saying Skywalker or Complete Saga. What about you?
Yeah, I mean, like, honestly, Christian, my gut reaction is Lego Star Wars all the way. And I think I think it really comes from a nostalgia factor for me. Not that I don't like the Revenge of the Sith game, because there is beauty in its jankness, as you put it. But I think, like, overall, if you're kind of just talking about like both of these games, Lego Star Wars is a bit more of a polished, complete package to me.
Yeah.
And I think for the time it was like ambitious to have all 6 films told in that way.
Yeah.
It was a pretty big game, and I don't remember there being like any issues with it, to be honest. It was challenging but not too hard. It was funny. It was just cool it was sort of sandboxy. That's something I really like. And Star Wars Episode 3, like, though it does do some like really funny things with the overall history and lore of Star Wars, when you put these two together, to me, I think Lego Star Wars is the more consequential of the two. And so for that reason, I think I would put my money behind Lego Star Wars.
I'm nodding my head to everything you're saying, Mike. I think you're selling me on this.
Yeah, I think it's just, as much as we like, Episode 3, we have to give credit where credit is due. So you want to move on with Lego Star Wars winning that one?
Yeah, it's the clear. I think it's the right choice, right? Like, those games are amazing. Like, they're both so unique. They're so charming. They kicked off like the entire Lego game series, basically. So like, yeah, it's we both love that Revenge of the Sith game, but I do think if you were to pick up either right now, both of us would have more fun with Lego Star Wars.
Right. Yeah. I mean, like, I honestly, like, I sometimes play this game, like, it's downloaded on my PC, so sometimes I just play this game for fun. And that's not something I do with Episode 3. So all right, so we'll move Lego Star Wars on to the semifinals. And moving on for round 2, we have the number 2 seed, Star Wars: The Old Republic MMO, versus Star Wars Battlefront from 2004. Yeah. This is kind of hard, I think.
Again, I don't have a huge history with the original Battlefront, so my chips are on the Old Republic. I think if you can get past the MMO-ness of it, which I think you can, it's definitely a little bit of a hurdle. It's a very competent, very well fleshed out RPG with tons of variety. You can play so many different classes. Each of them have their own fleshed out story. I think there's like 10 classes total, maybe 8, like split between the Old Republic and the Sith Empire. So like there's a lot of agency there on your end as a player, crafting the character you want to play. If you want to be a trooper, a bounty hunter, a Jedi, a Sith, like there's so many different paths you can take that are all unique to each character, and I think it's written well enough. The dialogue stuff is fun. It's got some lessons of the Mass Effect series in there. Obviously, it is an MMO, so you do have like your hotbar with like your force abilities on it, but I would give it to that. I think it's just a more fleshed out experience. I bounced off of it after putting maybe like 15 hours into a Sith character, and I was like, this is really cool. I appreciate it, but it's not my preferred experience. But I just think it does more impressive things on a wider scale than OG Battlefront.
Yeah, I also put about 10-15 hours into like a Jedi character on the Old Republic MMO, and I have to say, it's definitely more fleshed out, like you said. It's much wider of a setting than Battlefront and everything. It's definitely something you get used to if it's an MMO at the end of the day. So, it has those sorts of qualities, and it's kind of goofy in that way.
Mm-hmm.
But that's sort of to be expected just because it is an MMO. Battlefront, the OG one, I just think in terms of substance, it doesn't even hold up to the Old Republic MMO. I'm pretty sure that game is still being supported to this day.
Mm-hmm.
So, yeah, I mean, I don't have much experience with the Old Republic MMO. Definitely put more hours into Battlefront 1. But just, I think you kind of sold me on that one, Christian. It's just more fleshed out, like you said.
Yeah.
So, I think we're going to have to move that forward.
Very nice.
And so finally, for round 2, we have the number 3 seed, Star Wars Jedi Fallen Order, versus the number 11 seed, Star Wars Battlefront 2 from 2017. This is hard.
Yes.
It's another hard one.
Let's springboard from here.
Yeah.
There are things about Jedi Fallen Order that I think, if dealt with, a sequel could be the best Star Wars game ever made. I don't have many issues with Battlefront. There are things I'd like to see them add on to it, but I think the core foundation is solid. The same way, but at the same time, Fallen Order's foundation is really good. It's just technically there's some issues. The map isn't great. But the story's really cool. I think Cal is a kind of boring character, but he's still fun, right? I'm still on his side, but
yeah.
His history's interesting, and I think he's performed well. It's just Cal's stereotypical Star Wars hero, right? I don't know. Are you feeling a certain way about this?
I am feeling a certain way about this. Both of these games, in my opinion, are phenomenal. Mm-hmm. It's really hard to pick between the two of them. But one thing that I like to look at when I'm judging a game personally is replayability. To me, Jedi Fallen Order just doesn't have that same sort of replay factor that Battlefront 2 does. And maybe that's because Battlefront 2 is sort of maybe that's an unfair sort of thing to say, because Battlefront 2 by nature is a multiplayer game.
Right.
Jedi Fallen Order is not. But I've played way more Battlefront 2 than I have Jedi Fallen Order.
Same.
And Jedi Fallen Order has a great story. I think it's one of the best stories ever told in Star Wars lore,
mm-hmm.
to be honest. I really like it a lot. I'm not really hot on Cal Kestis fully, as a character. Like you said, I think he's kind of generic. But like you said, I think that Fallen Order could take the cake over Battlefront 2 if we were talking about Fallen Order 2.
Right. But at the same time, Mike, if you think about Star Wars and you think about the Star Wars game you want to experience, you want lightsabers, right?
Yeah.
The lightsaber combat in Battlefront 2 is not good. It's serviceable, but it's very stiff. I think Fallen Order, we also have to give credit. The combat in that game is excellent. again,
Chef's kiss.
they're going for souls, they nail it. And there's so many options you can do too for how you want to play it. Like, if you want a double bladed lightsaber, you can do that. I don't think you can dual wield. I think you can like break it out for a specific move, dual wield, but I don't think you can just default that way. But you can have a double bladed lightsaber, you can have a single lightsaber, you can have force freezing abilities, you can implement that into combat really interesting. You can play the game at a variety of difficulties that really change how you approach everything. It's challenging, but it's rewarding. Again, going for souls. Just using a lightsaber has never felt better. And I'm with you. The story is also one of my favorite stories I've experienced in Star Wars. And I think when you think Star Wars, the spectacle of it all is really always great, but at the end of the day, I think the best part about Star Wars is that personal storytelling they do there. And while I can't speak to how Battlefront handles it, I do think it's handled incredibly well in Fallen Order. So I think as a Star Wars experience, I don't know if it's fair to take points off of Fallen Order for it being a single player one and done, or maybe revisit it a couple years later thing. Because I'm with you. I put way more hours into Battlefront 2. I still play Battlefront 2.
Same.
I haven't played Fallen Order since they did that update last year for like an hour.
Yeah, exactly.
But I honestly, if I had to do this fairly, and like, I think I would do Fallen Order. I think just because it's more ambitious. It came so long after not having anything like that, and it touches in a pretty mainstream thing. It touches on some deep lore stuff from Star Wars also that I think is fun and interesting. Like the Night Sisters and Dathomir, like we don't get a lot of that. So I think I'd probably go with Fallen Order.
Yeah, I mean, I think you made a lot of really great points, Christian. I think that if we diverge on any of these, it would be this. I personally may put Battlefront 2 over Fallen Order, but I think you do make a good point that it's really hard to compare these two because it's not quite apples to apples, you know? Like Fallen Order is just a different game than Battlefront 2, full stop, and it's hard to compare. But what you said about how what makes Star Wars special is like the storytelling and the characters and going through that with the characters and everything. It's just not something that the campaign of Battlefront 2 does very well. I have to be honest. Like I like the campaign of Battlefront 2, but it just doesn't have the same emotional weight as Fallen Order. And I guess if you were to talk about like maybe the best multiplayer game, Battlefront 2 might be, top of the list for me. But if you were to put them both together, I can see how Fallen Order can take the cake over Battlefront 2, though maybe I wouldn't personally do that. I understand where you're coming from, and I can tell. I see where you're saying, and I think most people would agree with you on this, Christian. So I think we should move Fallen Order as the winner on this matchup.
Nice. Yeah, I can agree. I think like Battlefront 2, clearly love it. I'm sure you'll get third place overall, but like, yeah.
Yeah. All right, so let's move on to the semifinals round. We have two matchups here. The first is the number 1 seed, Knights of the Old Republic, versus the number 5 seed, Lego Star Wars: The Complete Saga.
Okay.
So, yeah.
I don't have a nostalgia for KOTOR. I think that is important here in this discussion.
Okay, that's important.
I do have a nostalgia for the Lego games. I haven't beaten KOTOR, but I do think, I don't know what I think. Mike, you talk.
Yeah, I have a nostalgia for both of these games. But if I were to say like which one has given me more joy in my life overall, I think Lego Star Wars would probably be that game. And here's why. Knights of the Old Republic, like we have talked about previously in this episode, has a great story. It's really compelling. It's engaging. For the time, it was something that a lot of video game developers like didn't do very well. So it sort of like paved the way for like a really great RPG that was turn based and really well balanced and all that kind of stuff. But Lego Star Wars: The Complete Saga, there's just like something special about that. It's like, you know, Knights of the Republic sort of has that tabletop game feel, so it almost feels like it's been done before, you know. It's just in video game format, but to me, Lego Star Wars: The Complete Saga is just, at the time, was just different, and still to this day has like a pretty high replayability for me. I think, you know, if you're looking at these two head to head, like which one has given me more joy personally in my life, now I'm just completely going personal here. I would choose Lego Star Wars. Both of these games are great. And it sort of seems sacrilegious to be like, yeah, Lego Star Wars is a better game than Knights of the Old Republic. But if I'm just going from like what I've enjoyed more in my life, I'd have to say Lego Star Wars. Knights of the Old Republic's a lot more mature, obviously. It takes itself a lot more seriously, but it just doesn't have that same sort of charm and the same sort of like, I don't know, replayability that Lego Star Wars does for me.
Yeah, I'm leaning towards what you're saying with your points. So I'll also say, like, again, playing KOTOR for the first time this year, I don't feel it's very well balanced. Like the chat told me that melee is super OP, and then I did that, and I was like, oh, it is.
Interesting. Okay.
So like I gave Zalbar like a crossbow for a while, and I kept dying. And I was like, someone was like, "Oh, give him a sword," and I gave him a sword and insta kill everybody. I was like, "Oh, okay." Also, there's absolutely been points with KOTOR that I felt pigeonholed in certain encounters, like sort of just thrown upon me unprepared. And I don't know what I can do better to feel more equipped for them. Like, I feel like you don't earn money at a good clip in that game, and you constantly have to have better equipment. Yeah. So, like, there's definitely been points of frustration in KOTOR. While the story I am interested in, even though it does feel a little fan fiction-y at times, you know, it's like, oh, this super powerful thing, and then there's this really, really important guy who maybe or may not have a tie to your character. Like, I do think it's fun and it's cool, and I understand the appeal to it, and I do enjoy that game a lot. But I think what you're saying of like, if you boil both of them down, I think the components of both are unique and interesting. But if we're leaning on preference, then yeah, I would probably pick Lego Star Wars here.
Yeah, I think so. Just really quickly, Knights of the Republic is extremely frustrating. In fact, there was one time where I had like pretty much like a corrupted save, where like my character just didn't have enough money and didn't have enough resources, and basically got stuck like in this fight that I couldn't escape from. And I like literally, it was impossible for me to finish the fight, so I had to like revert back to an earlier save, but I didn't have those because I had to like clear some space, so I literally had to restart the game. So that was really annoying. And that's the type of stuff that will happen in Knights of the Old Republic. Just because it's, yeah, I guess you're right. It's not the most balanced thing. I don't know what I was saying when I said that, but I think it's fair to say Lego Star Wars takes you know, wins over Knights of the Old Republic. So
yeah.
And so the final semifinal match, Star Wars: The Old Republic versus Star Wars: Jedi Fallen Order. What do you think?
So this is for the finals?
No, this is the second semifinal match, determining which game is going into the finals. So the Old Republic MMO versus Fallen Order.
Oh, sorry, I misunderstood. Fallen Order.
Yeah. That's an easy one.
Yeah.
All right. So we have our finals match set up here. We have in the finals. I'm sorry.
Do you want to do the bronze match first for who gets third?
Oh, true.
Or do you want to do that at last?
No, we should do the bronze match first.
Okay.
So the way that this bracket that we have set up here, it comes up with the losers of the semifinal match to be the bronze. Personally, I would like to see Battlefront 2 have the number 3 spot, but that's not how the bracket's working out. So in the bronze match, we have Knights of the Old Republic versus the Old Republic MMO.
You want to immediately say KOTOR, right?
Yeah.
But I do think there is something to say about the freedom of all the like the lengths at which they go to flesh out all those different character paths. Like,
Yeah.
at the beginning of KOTOR, you pick what, like, scout, scoundrel, trooper as your class. Those mean nothing outside of your stats. Here, you have a full-blown narrative based off of your life path in this galaxy, which I do think is worth commending. If we want to get really personal to split the difference here, like, I just prefer single-player games to full-blown MMOs like this. Like, I love Destiny, so if you made this game like Destiny, then I'd easily pick that, but this is, like, WoW territory.
Yeah.
And I would, like I said, I put, like, 15 hours in. I'd love to experience more of this game. It's just the MMO hurdle of it is a lot for me. So...
Yeah, it's very involved, you know, not many people have the hours to put into an MMO like this. And Knights of the Old Republic, in comparison, is just much more accessible. To me, I think this is an easy one. I would pick Knights of the Old Republic just because I agree with you, Christian. I'm much more inclined to pick a single player game over like a multiplayer one, especially when the multiplayer one is like WoW-esque, as you said. So for me, I think this is an easy pick. Knights of the Old Republic over the Old Republic MMO. What do you think?
I agree.
All right. So we have our number 3, which is Knights of the Old Republic. I think that's well deserved. Nice round of applause. We will be sending BioWare their medal in the mail. But we should figure out who won our final matchup. The number 5 seed, Lego Star Wars: The Complete Saga, versus number 3, Star Wars Jedi Fallen Order. And Christian, we both. So this is gonna just, you know, I think there is a better game out of the two of these, and I think we can come to a conclusion, a shared conclusion here. But it's funny that both of our number 1 picks have made it to the finals.
I do think that's funny. My pick, again, my bet at the beginning of all this was Fallen Order. I don't think it's any surprise. That's probably where I'm leaning right now.
Yeah.
Because at the end of the day, if I'm playing a Star Wars game, I do want some of that grand adventure. I do want that engaging story. I want a challenge. And Fallen Order has all of that. Like, Lego Star Wars: The Complete Saga is comfort food in a level that I really also love, but I love in a different way, you know?
Oh, for sure.
Yeah.
Fallen Order is just much, like, I hate using the word mature, but like it's just, it takes itself a bit more seriously. And I think what you said about Lego Star Wars being comfort food is like the perfect analogy. You know, Star Wars Jedi Fallen Order is like, I don't know, it's like a good, it's like a really expensive cut of meat. But Lego Star Wars: The Complete Saga is like, you know, beef jerky. Still good, but just, you know, a bit more processed. And Fallen Order is like a meal that you spend, you know, a bit more money on.
Yeah, it's like Fallen Order is like a full-blown Five Guys burger, and then Lego Star Wars is like a McChicken. It's like I'm still having a great time. You know? Like, and like it's, I think if you want to compare it within Star Wars too, it's like I love Empire. I also love Return of the Jedi. I think that's a similar comparison here. It's like I would clearly choose Empire at the end of the day, but like Return of the Jedi I still love, and I still love watching that movie and experiencing that. It's just warm. The way I think these two games are sort of equivalent, like Fallen Order being the Empire in that scenario. But yeah, I think I'd give it to Fallen Order mainly because of all the reasons we've said already, and I think it's just a game that should have been bad, right? Like, it should have been a bad game, but it wasn't.
For sure.
Respawn nailed it. Respawn, who's only made first-person shooters since they were created, they made a third-person adventure game and they nailed it, you know? So, like, also I'm really excited for the sequel, you know. So like I think there's something to say there, and I'm also excited for Skywalker Saga, but again, different ways, you know.
Yeah, I think it's one of those things that, you know, it's like I think I said this before. You can't, it's not apples to apples. It's hard to compare. But if you're just looking at them objectively, I think Fallen Order is the better game. So yeah, I think we should just choose Fallen Order for the winner of this. What do you think, Christian?
I can agree with that.
Great, awesome. So that concludes the tournament. We have come up with the top three. So with the gold medal, Star Wars Jedi Fallen Order, undefeated.
Woo!
With the silver medal, Lego Star Wars: The Complete Saga, and with the bronze, we have Star Wars Knights of the Old Republic. I think that's a great top three, Christian.
I do too. And I think the process does not lie. You know, I think
No.
we went through this. I think we had some difficult matchups. We had some fair ones, easy victories, hard fought ones. But at the end of the day, when it comes to video games, I think there's something to say that more often than not, newer games will have an advantage. Just because games are so tied to technology, you know.
Yep.
There are classic games that hold up. I think Star Wars is a case where Star Wars games are always trying to be cutting edge a lot of the time.
Yep.
And for that reason, sometimes they don't always hold up the way that a game like Mario 64 or like Smash holds up, right? Like,
right.
They're games that released around the same time as some of these, but Fallen Order is going for that grand adventure the way Force Unleashed goes for a grand adventure. But because Fallen Order has the benefit of modern day, you know, it's a little bit better. And I think there are cases where that's not the case, but here I think we made the right choices, Mike. I'm proud of this ranking.
I'm proud of this too. I thought this was really fun as well. We should definitely try to do some more brackets maybe in the future based on some other categories. We did video games, but there are a lot of other Star Wars things we could rank.
Mm-hmm. It is March Madness, so maybe we'll do another bracket this month. We'll see.
Yeah, I think it was a great idea. I appreciate going through that with you, Christian. Like you said, the process doesn't lie.
Mm-hmm.
I think the bracket shows the truth, and yeah, Star Wars Jedi Fallen Order. I think that's a top game out of all 14 that we ranked.
Yeah.
Cool. So if there's anything else do you want to say, Christian, I think I'm good to wrap it up, and you're much better at taking this out than I am. So
sure. This show is available on youtube.com/joyclicks if you would like the video version, alongside all of our other podcasts and playlists for different shows like Excelsior. If you like Marvel, Jack and I do a show like that. We got a bunch of others. This show is also available on Apple Podcasts, Spotify, audio services of your choice. If you can rate or review on that platform, it would be greatly appreciated if you enjoy the show, because it helps us out a ton and takes just a second. We will post the full bracket and the template on our Twitter at JC if you'd like to fill it out on your own, because that's always fun. And
yes.
Yeah, we also have a Patreon. Patreon.com/joyclicks. $1 and $5 tiers. $5 tier gets you producer credit, like our Patreon producers Chris Sakas and Aaron Easton. So thank you very much. And Mike, where can everybody find you?
Yeah, you can follow me on Twitter at Mike P. Connors.
Very nice. You can follow me on Twitter, Twitch, and TikTok at Chun2D2. And that's going to do it. So until next week, Mike, it's been a pleasure.
Always.
And we're fine. Everything's fine. How are you?
May the Force be with you.
Oh, yes, you're right. Beep is up.